Okay, welcome to the May 19th, 2020. That's the MSU Turf Team update. Today, once again, we have Dr. Jeff Andresen with us, who will give us the weather forecast, and hopefully it sounds like maybe some good news for a change. So, Jeff, we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Kevin. And I think probably there will be some approval. That's certainly a lot less complicated forecast than what we were dealing with over the last couple of weeks here. There we go. A scene here just to start that should be probably pretty familiar to most here over the last couple of days, with a second major area of low pressure to move through the state in the same week. This one had even more significant rainfall with it. It's something referred to as an atmospheric river event. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but something we don't see that often in Michigan, but we certainly have here in the last 24 to 48 hours, and has brought soils quickly back to saturation, or worse, with some flooding reported in some parts of the state. Looking at the week here in review, though, quickly, yes, it was colder than normal, but there's been some moderation here over the last several days. Our last freeze event statewide was again back on the 13th, so we've almost a week beyond that. But since then, temperatures still remaining 4 to 8 degrees Fahrenheit on average below normal for the week, but not as bad as what they had been in the week prior to that, and then the week prior to that. Now, it actually had so much precipitation over the state and the region that the product that I normally show you here with accumulated precipitation for the week is still unavailable. It's the jury is still out, but courtesy of the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Grand Rapids, who put together the graphic on the right, we at least have some totals for the last 48 hours. This is actually through Tuesday morning, the 19th, but these are essentially 48-hour type of records for total rainfall across much of lower Michigan. And you can see general widespread 2 to 4 inches accumulations, especially across central and northern parts of the state. Some totals approaching actually 5 inches in north central and west central lower Michigan. And again, that comes on an event late last week on Thursday and Friday of last week. So in 1 week, we've had, in some cases, 6 inches of rain. The normal for the entire month of May, typically only on the order of 3 inches, depending on where in the state you are. So we've had over a month's worth of rainfall literally in 1 week. One other, I think, really interesting little piece of this map, which is a little surprising. The rainfall with the system was widespread. Again, it was one of these so-called atmospheric river events, and so we had widespread moderate to heavy rain. But look at the far eastern part of the southeastern corner, lower peninsula here. There was an area that was repeatedly missed, essentially from Monroe down in the southeast corner on up into portions of the thumb. And some of those spots only picked up a quarter of an inch. In comparison, again, a huge contrast to see for an individual event like that, from, again, over 4 inches to less than a quarter across the state. So it did depend on where you were, but much of the state had excessive rain and a very, very heavy precipitation here. One image here I grabbed this is for our discussion with some of our fruit colleagues, but I think it's telling given the last couple days here and how wet it's been. But what you're looking at here from the EnviroWeather Station in Sparta, Michigan, on the top here in the red, these are air temperatures. And the dark blue here are dew point temperatures, so a measure of how much humidity, how much water vapor is in the air. And then the scales here over on the left. This goes back 3 days, all the way back to Saturday. But I think it's pretty interesting to look at this, especially the one down below, the next panel down below. This is a mediagram. You can get this offline from EnviroWeather for any site of the 100 sites in and around Michigan. But the dark green here is relative humidity. So how much water vapor does the air have to what it could potentially hold? And then in the darker green down here at the bottom, these are 5-minute precipitation totals. And you can see at this particular site, which is just north of Grand Rapids, the rainfall began just about 8 a.m. on Sunday morning. And then the green shading here, this is a leaf wetness being on or being wet. So this is commonly used as a proxy for many types of fungal diseases and growth and risk of plant diseases. But this is something we don't see that often. And we had that wetting event start at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning. And essentially, it's still going now through the middle of the day on Tuesday, more than 48 hours later. We rarely see one that long here in Michigan climatologically, but because, again, of the heavy rain, they had at this particular site almost 3 inches of rain in that time frame. Note also at the same time, our air temperatures, there's almost no diurnal change in temperatures. It's stuck in the low to mid 50s during the entire event. Almost no change at all, with the thick, heavy clouds and then, of course, the precipitation, which you can see most of that fell at this location on Sunday and Monday with much less. But still, everything, the landscape is saturated and wet, and it takes a while for that to dry off. So at least from a disease perspective, and depending on what disease you're looking at, the risk has been high here for some types of fungal pathogens. That said, we are moving into we're going to see some major changes here over the next several days. Degree day accumulations, not surprisingly, with another colder than normal week, have fallen still behind most of the state, again, remaining a solid 2 calendar weeks behind normal, or typically where we are at this time of the year. But just as I mentioned, we're going to see changes here in the next week that will act to reduce those deficits. So on the weather map here today, this area of low pressure down here over the Ohio Valley, this has been what's responsible for all of the precipitation. It's attached or connected, associated with an upper level trough that's cut itself off right over the region, which is one of the reasons why it's moving so slowly. But one of the things you can use your imagination here a little bit, but you can see a cold front trailing down to the south of this. What we've had over the last 2 days is an incredible influx of water vapor at lower levels of the atmosphere, all the way from the Gulf of Mexico and even parts of the subtropical Pacific at one time, but a funneling up northward thousands of miles from the subtropics up into the upper Midwest, into Michigan. And this is referred to as an atmospheric river event. It's a concentrated area of water vapor, and it could be several hundred miles wide typically, but Michigan was right in the middle of this particular event. These are much more common out in the western U.S., especially California, where it's a major part of their climate, but we don't see them as often here in the Midwest. But this is certainly would qualify for that, and one of the reasons why we did have, again, the widespread heavy rain. The good news about this is that even though, and you can see down here in the lower left, this is the most recent time lapse for precipitation, we still do have some showers moving up to the northwest around the northern periphery of this system. The whole system itself is actually drifting to the southeast and away from Michigan, finally. So we will see in the southeastern corner of the state a few more hours with showers, but then we finally will see some gradual clearing and drier air start to work in, and that's going to set up a trend here over the next several days. So just a few more hours of this system to deal with, and then it should be out of our way and out of into the books, with drying taking place mostly from west to east across the state here into the evening and tomorrow. That sets the stage for several dry days, fair dry days, and then just as importantly, a noticeable warming trend each day, a few degrees warmer each day. We'll be still stuck today, of course, in the 50s north to 60s. We've been there the last couple of days. Lows generally in the 40s, not much of a decrease over as you saw on the time trace here before. But as this high here to our north drips off to the east, we'll have easterly. We'll see, again, significant and noticeable moderation. We should be into the 70s, at least in central and southern parts of the state by Friday. And then finally, and this is one we haven't talked about, this weekend we will likely break 80 for the first time for max temperatures. And just as importantly, our nighttime temperatures will increase from the 40s and low 50s, where they are right now, into the 50s and 60s actually by the weekend. So really, this weekend, we are talking about a real taste of at least early summer-like weather for the first time for more than one day. We'll actually see that for several days. Precip-wise, I mentioned after today a drying trend, and that's certainly the case. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, expect actually very nice conditions, a little bit breezy during the afternoon hours with that easterly wind here the next couple days. We've been seeing a lot of that this time of the year. The next chance for any precip, I think, probably not until at least Saturday or Sunday, when we have a chance for some scattered showers or maybe a thunder shower, but it will be scattered, and not everybody will see precipitation. Matter of fact, most probably will not. The next chance for anything organized, I think, probably won't come until Monday, which unfortunately is Memorial Day, the Memorial Day weekend. But I think that will be probably the largest chance that we have for more widespread significant rain, or the next chance we see that. So we're looking at a period here of certainly drier conditions than has been the case over the last several, and definitely warmer. So warmer than normal, and at least in the short term future, dry. Precipitation totals through next Tuesday morning here, the 26th, you can see are generally a half an inch or less. Most of this precipitation that's on the map here is that event I'm talking about at the beginning of next week, next Monday. So again, very little between now and then, again, other than a hit and miss shower over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, but most of that would fall on Monday. There are more frequent chances for rain, it looks like right now, looking at the extended guidance I mentioned Monday, probably another one by the middle to latter part of next week as well. In the medium range forecast guidance, what we see primarily is continuity. The jet stream flow here forecasted, this is the 6 to 10 day, the 8 to 14 day outlook is very similar to this one, but the jet stream pattern here, the big change over the last week to 2 weeks is that big trough that was over the eastern part of North America is now moved out into the North Atlantic and gone, and it's been replaced by a southwesterly flow and really a sort of a large, broad upper ridge across the central and eastern U.S. And that really translates fairly consistently with warmer than normal temperatures. And that's, you can see where our mean temperatures are forecast definitely in that direction for warmer than normal conditions. It also suggests probably a pretty active storm track through the Midwest. And as a result of that, they also have indicated above normal precip. So the direction for both of these is definitely towards the warmer and wetter. And again, that's most of our long lead outlooks are in agreement with that. We'll get a new ensemble of long lead outlooks, by the way, here on Thursday. We'll talk about those next week. But one last thing I'd like to mention about this, it's very likely that this pattern is going to be with us for at least certainly the rest of May, and probably for a good chunk of that first week in June. So that I think that's a fairly good bet. However, not all of the models are in complete agreement about again, the upper air, the configuration here. And there's a chance that we could still sneak a Canadian origin air mass, maybe two in here for a brief period. Nothing like what we saw earlier here in May, but certainly different from what we're talking about now this weekend with 80s and 60s. But at least a temporary break to that is possible. And the confidence right now in the outlooks going out in the future is a little bit less than normal because of that disagreement. But most of them still are suggesting this warmer and wetter than normal type of forecast direction. So summarizing here, the reign of this last huge event finally ends here in the next few hours, and we'll see some drying out. It's already taking place in some parts of the state now, but definitely statewide here by this evening. And then that sets the stage for several very nice, very, very nice days. Sunny, fair, dry conditions with noticeable warming and up into well, certainly near 70 by the end of the work week, and then well into the 70s, if not 80 by the weekend. It will be a little bit cooler than that in the north, but still 70s even in the northern part of the state, I think, are a good bet this weekend. Our low temperatures also increasing. So we're going to see a lot in terms of development, and with all the water on the landscape, there's going to be a lot happening, I think, in a very short time frame. Next chance for rainfall, maybe this weekend, some hit and miss showers or thunder showers, but better chance on Monday. And as we just talked about here, medium range says probably more of the same for the better part of the next 2 weeks, maybe even a little bit longer than that in the warmer and wetter direction. So I'll wrap up with that. And Kevin, if any questions, we can take those now too. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Certainly a change, right? So
Yeah.
I was just thinking as you were talking. If you want to stop screen share, that's fine. Last week we were talking about we're getting a little bit dry, and we're certainly talking about those freeze events. But it's certainly a change in just a week. The amount of water we have sitting around right now, and I think you hit it pretty accurately when you're looking at those leaf wetness models and now the climbing temperatures this weekend. I know one of the diseases that a lot of our turf managers deal with is dollar spot, and that is certainly going to be on the horizon probably as we go into this Memorial Day weekend, if it doesn't even come on a little bit sooner than that. So definitely something to keep an eye on for. will be interesting, I think, if we continue on, you're talking about this long range forecast, if it ends up being warmer and wetter than normal, it'll present some interesting scenarios probably for us as we move forward following this very cold spring.
It's a huge change of pace, and as you mentioned, some parts we're actually looking for a little bit of water, but this past week has changed a lot of that very, very quickly, certainly more quickly than we typically see. And it is, I would note, even though we started the month of May drier than normal, it was so cold as well, we'll end up in most cases, of course, above normal in terms of precip, but that's consistent with the long-term trend. Where, of course, all the annual year cycle is also wetter, but the springs are definitely getting wetter over time, and this year would be another one of those examples of that.
Well, I think the bottom line is at least we're going to feel some warmer temperatures for Memorial Day weekend. I think all of us are looking forward to that, and
Yeah.
maybe getting away from wearing jeans and sweatshirts every day.
Nice change of pace.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Jeff. Look forward to we'll talk next week and see what the forecast holds for as we get into close to June already now.
Yeah, very, very good. We'll try to hold the forecast sites here, have something for you to talk about next week.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Take care. Bye.